What's up, people? This is Chris Chats Comics, and I'm Chris Gonzalez, and it's Tuesday, and you know what that means. It's another episode of Trade Talk Tuesdays, and this is the first episode of 2026. I'm really excited because I'm going to be discussing and going over one of my favorite comics that was from last year, and that is Batman and Robin, Year One, and this is written by Mark Waid and Chris Samnee, and the colors are by Matthias Lopez, and the letterer is Clayton Cowles, and Chris Samnee assisted with the lettering as well. And yeah, first of all, I just want to get this out of the way. I love this book. It's definitely one of my favorites of 2025, and to me, Mark Waid and Chris Samnee, whenever they work together, they just don't miss. They did the first story I read from them was their Daredevil run. I have both volumes of the omnibus, and I loved it. It's probably my favorite Daredevil run. So I was really excited to hear that they were working on a Batman and Robin story. So I love this, and I'm gonna read the excerpt on the back. So, the birth of the dynamic duo. So, Bruce Wayne has adopted Dick Grayson and found a partner in his war on crime, but making both relationships work may be the greatest challenge Batman and Robin ever faced. When a mysterious new crime boss called the General declares war on Gotham City's mob families, the lives of far more than just the dynamic duo depend on their partnership. And again, this book collects the whole series. It's issues 1 through 12 of Batman and Robin Year One, and yeah, let's get into it. So again, I love, first of all, Chris Samnee, one of my favorite artists working in the industry today. I just love his it's like a classic comic book Silver Age style that's been modernized, and I just love, you know, it's kind of cartoony, but not really. It's just classic art to me. And so let's go ahead and start off with issue 1. So this story picks off immediately after Dick's parents died, and Bruce, you know, adopts him because he feels sympathetic towards Dick because his parents were also brutally murdered in front of him as well. And yeah, so it starts off right when Bruce adopts him. And yeah, him and Alfred are just discussing if they're a good fit and if they made the right decision. So Mark Waid, again, he's been a prolific writer for decades now, and this doesn't change in this story. I liked his dialogue and his voice for Robin. It just perfectly encapsulated how new Robin is in this story to crime fighting, and how naive he can be. And I just like how we're seeing how Bruce and Dick navigate not only their partnership in crime fighting, but also their relationship, as you know, they're pretty much a pseudo father and son. So, and again, just look at the artwork. The artwork is just incredible. And yeah, look at this. Just beautiful. It reminded me of not only Batman the Animated Series, but also in this series, Mark Waid and Chris Samnee, they, you know, pay respect to what came before and what probably inspired them. A lot of references to the Adam West Batman, so I really dug it. And so yeah, this is literally year 1 of them working together, and Batman introduces Robin to Jim Gordon. Of course, Jim Gordon doesn't believe a kid should be like doing this, but again, the artwork is just incredible. And yeah, it was just another solid issue. Look at this. Chris Samnee, man, look at how beautiful this is. And you can see where I get it's like a classic style but modernized, so I really dig. In the art, the colors by Matthias Lopez, you know, just elevates the work. And I like the uses of blacks in Gotham, and Gotham still, even though it's like a cartoony Silver Age-esque art style, it's still Gotham. It's still gritty and it feels lived in, so I really appreciated that. And so yeah, Two-Face is introduced. I love Two-Face design by Chris Samnee. So Batman and Robin, they get the drop on Two-Face, and yeah, it's just really awesome storytelling. And then towards the end of the first issue, we get our main antagonist, well, one of the main antagonists. His name is General Grimaldi. He is from Miami, and he's looking to disrupt all the mob families and pretty much take over. So that's how he's introduced. And then in issue 2, we start with Child Protective Services. They're pretty much wagering bets on how long it takes for Bruce Wayne to screw up because they have no faith in him. And then we get introduced to one of the main, this woman right here. She is the main Child Protective Services agent. Her name is Laura Lynn, and yeah, she's going to be the one checking in on Bruce and Bruce and Dick throughout the story. And I liked how in this panel there's a pretty cool transition where Laura Lynn, from Child Protective Services, she's like, I'm off to Wayne Manor right now, and I hope this Playboy fop isn't putting that kid in any danger. So I like how she says that. And immediately it cuts to all this gunfire, and Bruce is putting Robin through a training course. Him and Alfred are training him. They're literally shooting rubber bullets at him. So I thought that transition was pretty funny about how Laura, she's like, I hope Bruce isn't putting him in danger. And then it cuts to him literally putting him, Dick in danger. But I thought that was pretty funny. And yeah, so the writing is very clever. The humor, again, Mark Waid, really the humor in this. Dick is used as the comic relief for the most part, and Alfred, he has a pretty humorous lines as well, so I really appreciated that. And then the panel layouts were really cool. So, but yeah, here we go. Miss Lynn, she's visiting Bruce, and you know, they're putting on a show for her to make sure that they don't take Dick away. And then we get, again, Two-Face eventually meets up with the General Grimaldi, and he's trying to form an alliance, but Two-Face has some ulterior motive. So look, now we're back in the Batcave. You're about to go on the mission, and I just really marveled at the artwork and just the detail by Samnee in this. And in these pages, Robin, he's just marveling at how the size of the Batcave is, and he is asking Batman, he's like, how many Batcaves do you have? And Batman told him just one. And Batman explains to him that underneath Gotham there's like all these caverns, and so that's how he gets around and goes, you know. And I just like the panel layouts where he's telling Dick about the history about these underground caverns, and just the paneling shows like the skyline of the city and then all of the layout of the Batcave. So I thought that was a pretty creative way of showing how you know, these underground caves are underneath Gotham. So But yeah, so throughout the beginning of this series, it just showcases how Batman and Robin, they're going through growing pains as they get to know each other and, develop their working relationship. And, Robin, he's excited to be doing this. And again, like I mentioned, he's naive. So he puts himself in dangerous situations, and, he has to learn. And so another villain in this series is Clayface, and in this part we get an introduction. This guy, he has a flamethrower, and he's impersonating one of the members of a certain mob, and Grimaldi's plan is to have the different mob families fight each other, so he can sneak in and cause some havoc. But yeah, and this building caught on fire, and then Robin saves these two children. And since he comes from a circus background, he's trying to be all showy and put on a show. But yeah, and Batman, he slowly starts to appreciate Robin's heroics. So it's, again, throughout this whole series, it's just their relationship and evolving, and them not only appreciating each other as like a pseudo father-son, but also respecting each other as partners in their war on crime. And then this guy who set everything off with the flamethrower, his face is melting, so that is Clayface. So I like Clayface's introduction. And so yeah, issue 3, Clayface, again, he's impersonating different members of the mob family so he can pit them against each other, and he's just continuing to wreak havoc. And this is like the beginnings. Again, but again, the artwork is just really good. Really good. So, and then in this issue, Bruce is so focused on this case involving Grimaldi and all the recent, crimes that have been happening, that he's starting to neglect Dick. So he has to learn that it's not just him now. He has to care for this kid. So Bruce is trying to remind him of that. And again, see, Bruce, he's so into his own thoughts that Alfred has to yell at him. He's like, "Master Bruce, the boy. We have to talk about the boy." And Robin, he's just been alone and eating a bunch of junk food and locking himself in the room, just being a kid. So it's just Bruce, he thinks, he and Alfred have this conversation that, yeah, Bruce thought that Dick would, be more responsible, considering they have similar backgrounds with their parents being murdered. But Alfred has to remind Bruce, like, yeah, like, you both have terrible things have both happened to you, but he's not you, Bruce. Dick is not you. So Bruce has to start to learn that. So eventually they confront Two-Face, and I think there's an issue 3 in this particular section. Yeah, Two-Face, he mentioned Zuko, and Zuko's the one who murdered Dick's family. So when Two-Face does that, Robin, his emotions get the best of him, and he confronts Two-Face, about everything. And then just, again, the artwork, man. The artwork is just, yeah, Mark Waid's writing has always been good, but the artwork just by Chris Samnee, man. Whenever they work together, I think they bring out the best in each other. So I love the crime aspects of this book. And again, this is not just a crime story. It's about a pseudo father and son, and again, their early adventures together. So I'm really appreciating that. So that was pretty much the end of issue 3. And then issue 4 begins where issue 3 left off. Bruce, he's almost drowning, and then Robin has to jump into the water to save him. And just the coloring by Matthias Lopez when Robin jumps into the water and he uses the red flare to find where Batman is. I just love the coloring in this. And yeah, it also heightens the use of black in, like, so you get a sense that they're deep underwater. So I really appreciated that. Just again, can't say enough about the artwork. And then there's this sequence where Grimaldi, it's not really explored that much, only like when Grimaldi, he'll have his father, I guess, used to be a huge crime boss back in Miami, and then I guess they didn't have such a great relationship, so they don't really go into great detail about their relationship, and the father really doesn't talk. But this conversation, they go up to the top of the building. Grimaldi's father is wheelchair bound, and Grimaldi's just gloating over his father. He's like, I'm gonna be what you couldn't. And yeah, just he holds his father over the edge of the building. And this whole just conversation between them, one-sided conversation, I should say, it was very intense. And they've written Grimaldi very well. So, and when we get to it, I'm surprised where his character ends up, but Grimaldi's introduction's just, he's menacing, he's here to cause chaos between all the mob families, and he's looking to take over. So, and then, like I said, Miss Lynn, she does visit, and she shows up periodically throughout the series, and whenever she visits, her and Alfred, they have humorous banter with one another, because Alfred, he's trying to be coy and he's trying to distract essentially Miss Lynn so Bruce and Dick can put on an act for them. So later on, there's another action sequence. Like, this is really cool. Batman confronts Grimaldi because he's starting to figure out what's going on, and just this action sequence was really done well. And look at this again. Really cool. And yeah, so Clayface is a major player towards the second half of the series, and issue 5, he's definitely more involved. And again, in the beginning of the issue, Dick and Bruce still going through their growing pains. Dick got kicked out of school on the first day, and Bruce is like, yo, you're going to school. And then again, still Gordon's giving them more details regarding what's happened. And this issue in particular involving Clayface, it reminded me of an episode that was pulled straight out of Batman the Animated Series. So, and it's again, Bruce Wayne, he has to infiltrate this party, and the host of the party, he got taken out by Clayface, and now Clayface is masquerading as this guy. So Batman, gets into it. This is his first fight with Clayface, and then Batman had told Robin I'm going on my own, so just stay at the house. But Robin, he doesn't listen. And I like how there's a reference to Catwoman right here. So really dug that. A lot of cool references here. Really, really appreciated that. And then again, Batman continues to fight. Well, he doesn't realize this guy's Clayface yet. So Clayface is getting the upper hand, starts to suffocate him, and then I like this transition. It zooms in on Batman's eyes, and the next page it zooms in on Robin's eye, and then they trick Robin, they set a trap for him, Grimaldi's men, and Robin, he kicks some butt. He's like winning the fight, but then eventually the numbers get to him and he gets captured. They take him, they kidnap him, and then it cuts back to Batman facing Clayface. So again, just a really compelling and fun story like that. Yeah, and then the end shows Grimaldi has Robin. Issue 6, we're halfway through. The development of Dick and Bruce's relationship is the highlight of issue 6 in particular, more than anything. And see, it goes through when Dick's parents died, he lends a hand to him, and I like this page. Dick giving Batman the oath of them starting to fight crime together. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, issue 6 again, it's about Batman rescuing Robin. Another cool action sequences. Batman, he uses like this glider to distract them and sneak in, and while Batman sneaks into Grimaldi's base, he discovers all these labs, and they're actually experimenting on test subjects with some type of serum, and that serum turns the test subjects into these monsters. So Batman has to fight one of them. Really creepy right here, look at that. So Batman's dealing with that. Robin's, I don't know why they left Robin by himself, but yeah, he was able to break free from being tied up. And yeah, Batman continues to fight this monster, and then all of a sudden the building that they're in catches on fire and they have to escape. So Robin escapes on his own from the top of the building, so he's very this shows that Robin's resourceful and he can think on his feet. And so yeah, again, another highlight of the issue. And then Batman, he has a little smirk here. It's just, he's impressed by Robin's skills. And again, this is just, like I mentioned, this issue really highlighted their relationship and, the growing pains that they have. And then later, Two-Face shows up to Grimaldi again, and Two-Face earlier in the series had taken a file from the police, and we didn't know what was in the file, but in this issue we find out that the police have been trying to identify Batman, and Bruce Wayne can be one of the suspects. So that's where issue 6 ends. And issue 7, in this issue, I like the dialogue that was written for Mark Waid, and some of it, the dialogue that particularly Robin's dialogue, it calls back to some of the cheesiness and the campiness of the Adam West show, and the backgrounds. I don't know, in this issue in particular, like the backgrounds of Gotham, just like really cool and detailed. Look at this. Really cool. And again, I can't say enough about Chris Samnee's art. It's just amazing. I love it. And and I like this part where Dick, he's at school and he's being a show off, and There's a bully, and then Miss Lynn visits, and Dick, he, to cover up the bruises that he gets from, fighting crime, he goats a bully into hitting him. That way he can have more bruises. So he writes this note, throws it at the bully. It says, "You hit like a girl." So pretty much, playing the conning Laura Lynn. So I thought that was pretty funny and clever. And then Two-Face, in this issue, Two-Face and Clayface, they form their own little alliance. So it's gearing up that they're gonna backstab Grimaldi. And then Grimaldi and his men, they're starting to go through that list that Two-Face provided for them on who can potentially be the Batman. So they're just going down the list and starting killing everybody. So on that list. And then issue 8. So issue 8, Grimaldi's men is again going down the list, and they go to this one billionaire's house. They try to kill this billionaire, and then Batman and Robin save him. And then there's a moment where Robin, he grabs one of the goon's guns. Yeah, he grabs one of the goon's guns from him and points it at him. He wasn't going to use it, but Batman did not like that. He did not like that at all. He was like, "We don't use guns. We don't do that." And then as he's saying, "No, don't using guns," it flashes back to his parents dying in a crime alley. So I thought that was a really good opening to the issue. And also, I appreciated this conversation where references Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl. We don't see her in the series, but it's cool that they did reference her. And then Batman, he has this really heartfelt conversation about just being a father and how Gordon deals with some of the struggles it is with being a father. So I really appreciate that. Really good character moments in this. And there's a good spread page where in this issue, let me see, where is it? There's a good spread page where Batman, he's saving Dick from Clayface. I thought it was really right here. Look at this. So Clayface, he was impersonating Bruce and got into Wayne Manor, and he was trying to trick Dick into revealing that they are Batman and Robin, but Dick didn't work, and he realized that wasn't Bruce. And then the real Batman comes in, and I just love this page right here of him attacking Clayface. Really cool visuals. And again, I just thought the writing really clever. So Batman, he uses liquid nitrogen to hurt Clayface, and he grabs some samples from him, and they're going to analyze, see the composition of what he's made of. And again, Clayface goes back to Two-Face, and they're going to form a plan. So that was issue 8. Issue 9. Dick, this one, there were some pretty emotional moments. It's just going through all the different crime families. And there's a conversation later on in this issue. Yeah, so they're coming back from a fight with Grimaldi's men, and Batman senses that there's something off with Dick. He's being more reserved, being more quiet, and they go back home, and Alfred and Bruce, they have this conversation about Dick, and it was really heartfelt And also because Alfred, he senses that there's something off with Dick as well, so he brings up that he did a little research, and it turns out that Dick is this day was his mom's birthday, so that's why he's, really upset. And just another really heartfelt moment between Dick and Alfred, and just further cements their relationship and that they do care for each other. So I really thought that was cool. And Samnee's artwork, just the facial expressions, like look at that, you can tell just Dick is going through anger, sadness, grief, all in just by their facial expressions. And I really appreciated Chris Samnee for being able to depict all those emotions in his character designs. So, and yeah, it's just really cool. Oh, in this page, Grimaldi, he pretty much figures out that Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson are Batman and Robin. But right as he figures that out, like look at this, spoilers, he gets killed. So he's donezo. Clayface kills him, and now him and Clayface starts to impersonate Grimaldi. So that was really, really surprising. And I remember because I was reading this and when the singles were coming out, and that scene, because throughout the series, Grimaldi was, he was the main antagonist. He was the main bad guy, and they just got rid of him with like 3 issues left. So I thought that was really compelling, and it shocked me. It really surprised me that they did that. So issue 10. So Two-Face and Clayface, they're starting to do their, make their own plans, but they're using what Grimaldi did and as a foundation. So they're just pretty much stemming off from what he had done already. And now they've captured figureheads in all the crime families, and they are replacing them with these Clayface monsters, because you know how Grimaldi, he had experiments going on, so Two-Face just piggybacks the experiments they were working on to create more clay monsters. So they're kidnapping most of the figureheads in the crime families, and they are replacing them with the clay monsters. And yeah, they're pretty much funneling a lot of their money from like stocks and other things into Grimaldi's account. So they're gonna essentially steal from the mob and then leave town. That's their plan. And then so Jim Gordon calls in Batman and Robin. They have a conversation with him, but it seems, I like this part of Jim Gordon's hand is melting off. You know what that means? That's not Jim Gordon. So I thought this sequence was pretty exhilarating, and yeah, it was just fun. So they try to escape so what happened to Gordon, we don't know, but I liked how Batman utilizes some of Dick's moves to help him out. So, and yeah, just Robin, Mark Waid's voice for Robin is just really good. Like, I feel like he understands the character, and at this point in Robin's life, he definitely just, the dialogue's perfect for Robin. I think he has these quips, and he's just very excited to, and again, the naivety in his dialogue. You can really tell that Mark Waid really understands this character. And this issue was really fast paced from start to the end, and then yeah, it just shows how each figurehead Falcone, Rupert Thorne, and all these other guys have been replaced. So they get back to the cave, and then it looks like Laura, she's back, and she's, reveals that the Attorney General indicts the billionaires for the stock fraud, and that's because Two-Face has been, all the intel that he's gathered, he's, framing all the billionaires, including Bruce Wayne. So Bruce gets arrested, and Dick doesn't want to leave because, again, they formed this bonds, and Child Protective Services take Dick, and they essentially put him in a new foster home. And it's just devastating because throughout the series you can tell that they were going through these growing pains, and that now at this point they respect each other and they love each other because they're like a father and son now. And again, the end, it was just devastating, showing the police just take Dick and arrest Bruce. So yeah, Alfred's feeling it. So in issue 11, Bruce, he made bail a few days later, and then just having this conversation with Alfred about if he's heard from Dick, and he's told him. And then so this is not the real Clayface, but a dude named Brumley who is injected by the serum that turns people into the clay monsters. So him and Batman have this pretty devastating and emotional conversation, and Batman's trying to get more intel on Grimaldi, and because at this point Batman doesn't know that Grimaldi's dead. So whatever serum that Grimaldi is using, or that Grimaldi used to transform these test subjects, it rapidly decays. So it's not like the main Clayface he doesn't decompose, but the other guys, the other people who have been injected with this new serum, the longer they use their clay abilities and the more they use it, they decompose and just turn into dust. So this is what is happening to this one guy, and Batman is just trying to talk him like, hey, like, I'm trying to help you, like, just don't overexert yourself, you're gonna die. And he asks for some information, and just look at this guy's face. He knows it's the end, and he tells Batman, just, I trusted this guy. And Batman tells him, don't die in vain. And Brumley, his name is Brumley, he says, the files on the desk, it's his location, our names, evidence, it's all there. And he's like, my name is Brumley, tell my wife and then he just turns into really emotional, and Batman just tells him, I'm sorry. And then he takes the files, and I just felt really sympathetic towards this guy because he was just trying to have a better life, and they lied to him. So, and then Batman, he goes to see Dick is at his new foster home, and he starts to question about whether he should have taken him in or not, and he should have been in a home like this. And he feels that Batman, it started as a solo act, and it should continue just as a solo act. And but it sees, like, Batman sees that Dick is happy, but in reality, Dick, he's sad that he's not with Bruce. And towards the end, Batman, he gets into the fights. He finds Jim Gordon where he's being held at, and he goes and fights all the other clay monsters. But Batman's starting to get his ass kicked. But yeah, he's trying to tell all these people, like, you're falling apart, and they're just not listening to him. So Batman's trying not to, you know, fight with them because they could die. So he escapes by going through a window, and then as he's falling, well, no, he meets up with Grimaldi, but it's actually Clayface, and here he learns that Grimaldi's dead, and it is Clayface. And then Two-Face comes and electrocutes Batman, so they're fucking him up. So Clayface chucks him out the window, and then Batman's falling, and then all of a sudden Robin saves the day. So I really enjoyed that part. It's a very triumphant moment. And then that's where we get to the last issue, issue 12. And Two-Face is just an evil dude, man. Like, one of the clay monsters, he's like, or one of the henchmen that were injected with this serum, like, they're dying, and he's like, I'm dying. And then Two-Face was just like, don't touch me with your filthy hands. And that was just like, dude, Two-Face in this is evil to the core. And throughout this issue, I love the homage of, again, the Adam West show, or them climbing up the building is really cool. So you can tell that Mark Waid was probably a fan of that Adam West show. And there's a lot of references to the larger DC universe, like they mentioned guy in Metropolis and Superman. So anyway, Two-Face and Clayface's plan, they have all this data like on a floppy disk, and from, you know, like all the stocks, all this data they got from the mob families, and they're gonna distract Batman by pouring the serum into the water supply that would affect everybody. And before they can do that, Batman stops him. And yeah, that's pretty much... The end was kind of anticlimactic a little bit, but it was cool. And then they defeat both Two-Face and Clayface. They go to jail. And then eventually... Batman, he gets guardianship of Dick again. And then Jim Gordon starts to introduce the press in Gotham to Batman and Robin. So that's where it ends. And really, really, really solid read. I couldn't recommend this enough. This is one of my favorite series from last year, and I feel like this is going to be one of the modern classics, up there with, you know, Batman Year One, Long Halloween, all the great Batman stories. This is a great. If you want to, if you want to introduce somebody who likes Batman and Robin specifically, this is a great introduction to their story, and I couldn't recommend more. So yeah, that is it. That was today's episode of Trade Talk Tuesdays, the first episode of 2026. Let me know if you read this series. If you have, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And again, in my opinion, Chris Samnee and Mark Waid, they don't miss whenever they work together. So speaking on that, the next episode of Trade Talk Tuesdays next week will be another Mark Waid and Chris Samnee story, and that is Black Widow, and this is the complete collection. And again, Mark Waid writing, Chris Samnee on artwork, Matthew Wilson on colors, and I think Chris Samnee, he does some of the writing in this as well. I have never read this, so I'm curious to see. But again, love their Daredevil run, loved Batman and Robin Year One. I'm pretty sure I'll love this, so I can't wait to read it. So yeah, that will be next week, and that is it. Thank you again for watching the episode. This is Chris Chats Comments, and this is Trade Talk Tuesdays. I'll be back tomorrow with my new Comic Wednesday poll. And yeah, so thank you again to everybody who's watched. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And yeah, that's been it. Peace out.